There have been many calls to reevaluate the industrial Monday through Friday 9 to 5. We know the 40-hour work week is burning people out, and in nonprofits, staff often go above and beyond. But with greater emphasis on work-life balance and flexibility, organizations are needing to be creative. And it turns out, anyone can take a leadership role in what this could look like. In our last episode, we heard about how youth are challenging our traditional ideas of work and working. And today, we'll learn even more about how young people are leading big changes. You're listening to The Sector, a podcast brought to you by Impact Organizations of Nova Scotia, or IONS, where we demystify what is happening in the community impact sector. We'll talk the good, the bad, and the ugly about what it's like to work in the nonprofit sector. I'm your host, Lydia Phillip, and in this conversation, I'm joined by my co-host, Alexandra. In this episode, we'll discuss flexibility at work and how organizations are modernizing our traditional Monday to Friday 9 to 5. We'll explore ION's 4-day work week and how it's been working for our team and how some organizations have tailored it to meet their own needs. We're joined by our guest, Nina Nelsasova from Teamwork Cooperative, who will share how they've helped implement a big change within their organization. Thanks for joining us, Nina. Happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to lay a little bit of the land before we hop into it. And we talked a little bit about how IONS has experimented with and implemented as a permanent policy a 4-day work week. So, Alexandra, to get us started off about work-life balance and flexibility, paint this picture for me about what your Fridays look like.
Anyone who works in the IONS team is going to laugh that you're asking me about work-life balance, but the 4-day work week, Fridays are such a beautiful day now. They're like my new Saturday. Before the 4-day work week, I used to do, Saturdays were my errands day. So they were I go to the grocery store, I get all of my stuff done, figure out what I'm going to do for the next week, and then I crash in the afternoon or the evening. And then Sunday is just full of the Sunday scaries, and we do it all over again. So now with Fridays being my day, it's still the errands day, but the benefit is that everything's still open. So I can have appointments on Fridays instead of during my work week. I can, enjoy businesses that are normally not open on the weekend and actually save my Saturday for chilling out, enjoying some of my hobbies, or just not doing things. It's a much more relaxed day, but it also becomes a bit of a personal productive day, which feels good.
It's definitely benefited rest for sure. And IONS has talked a lot about our experience with going down to 4 days a week. And that's been something that we've been sharing with organizations and sharing pretty publicly about our journey and our story. And that's how Nina heard about what we were doing. So Nina, do you want to share a little bit about your organization, what you do, and how you learned about the 4-day work week?
Yeah, absolutely. Since 1997, Teamwork was supporting Nova Scotians with finding meaningful employment. Until 2016, they were solely supporting people with a disability. So it was like a boutique employment support organization for a specific population. And then in 2016, the government decided to bring various employment organizations together and created the Nova Scotia Works system, which the idea of which was basically that anyone, regardless of their background and regardless of their location, can access similar employment services. From then on, Teamwork has been supporting anyone who comes through our doors, alongside with 15 other organizations under the Nova Scotia Works umbrella. And so whoever needs employment support and who has a legal permit to work in Canada, we can support them. But we are still known in the community as experts in supporting people with a disability in the workplace, whether it's finding, maintaining employment, anything around accessibility, accommodations in the workplace, whether we're supporting job seekers or employers with that. Basically, that expertise gives us set of tools to make sure that we treat any client, any job seeker with inclusion in mind, with accessibility in mind, and making sure that their stories is heard. And of course, it's a nonprofit environment. Of course, it comes with the challenges with its dependency on funding from the government and whatnot. how I learned about what you folks do at IONS is that one of my close friends that I went to school with, she started working at IONS, and she was bragging about, oh, I'm not working on Fridays. Yes, she was never like, oh, yeah, I'm off on Fridays. I can't come see you for lunch because I live far away, whatever. I was like, oh, that's a great initiative you guys are doing. And of course, 4-day work week has been around for a while now. It's not
not a new concept.
Definitely, but something that close as, your friend's organization engaging it, I was getting jealous.
After learning about this, how did you bring it up in your organization? What kind of traction did you get? How did you make this work for you?
I'm going to say it was a right timing, but the wrong timing at the same time, kind of. Back in 2023, or I want to say a little bit of a end of 2023, there was a big cut in our funding that all Nova Scotia Works experienced, and we had to let some people go. Some of the programs did not continue, so basically everything was very sad and dark times appeared. So it was not fun, and you could feel it in the office. You could feel it in people's attitudes. People were not feeling as secure in their positions, whether they knew that their contract is, continued for another year. It's still you lose great people that you worked with for some time, and very, very suddenly. And layoffs are never anything fun or positive to talk about or to experience as an organization. Especially our team is very, brought together. We're always celebrating things together. We're always doing things together, even teamwork. It means a lot for us, and losing people that, worked alongside us for a while is a big deal. So you could feel it. And that was very close to Christmas time, holidays, all of that. And it was also pretty sudden for staff, for management as well in some degree, but specifically for staff. Something needed to change. I was kind of talking to my manager, and we were discussing, what can we do? And by we were just brainstorming, on the level of chatting, basically, because we're like, is anything change? Maybe not. But he's the type of person, and when we talk together, we're very, very ideas-based. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to change the world, we're going to dominate the society. Anyway, so one of those conversations was something like that, how we can't pay people more, we can't provide any financial benefits, all of those things kind of all coming in together. Okay, what can we do? We already had a work-from-home day for the staff. How can we make it better? Should we bring a second work-from-home day? Is that going to be something that people are interested in? Or are we going to lose a lot of people not being in the office? Like, how are we going to regulate that? Then I was like, oh, can we do 4-day work week? Is it too much to ask? Is it just, in some kind of a ideal world that's happening? My manager at the time, he just mentioned that, our executive director, he was always on board. He was always like playing around that idea in his head, but we were never doing anything with it specifically. It was just an idea. It was just something that people are like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a great thing to have. We set a Zoom meeting, chatted a little bit about your experience and how you folks implemented it. What were the steps? What are the challenges, specifically because we're interested in challenges? What can go wrong? And then you connected us with New Dawn, I believe, organization in Cape Breton, who also implemented 4-day work week. And their approach was a little different to what you folks are doing. So it was really great to get different perspectives and different ways of playing around with 4-day work week and maybe not doing it specifically as a kind of frame. And then we were like, me and my manager kind of started thinking, okay, this can be doable. We started thinking that maybe we can, gather enough information and kind of bring it to our ED. We knew he would have been open to the idea as long as we can provide the answers to the questions that he might have. And of course, the biggest question would have been, what are the funders going to say? And how we're going to implement it in our agreement with the Nova Scotia Works system. And that's basically how it started. So we gathered all the information that IONS was doing, what New Dawn was doing, made a draft of the framework and kind of went from there to our ED. Of course, he loved it, and he started running with it because he also felt the same need of changing something because of so many things happening, so many negative things happening, and maybe kind of finding a new way of making sure we can have another cherry on top of becoming employer of choice. After that, we gathered a team of other folks that were included in kind of thinking of the idea of 4-day work week, and started doing more research. So it was presentation, it was some stats, some buzzwords, some what are the challenges, what are the benefits, what are the challenges that we might experience, because a few of those things were especially around the agreement. So one of the biggest challenges that we had is that our agreement, the Nova Scotia Works agreement, states that we have to work 37.5 hours for this amount of money. And taking away 7.5 hours means we either lose money or we need to negotiate a substantial raise. None of which were going to happen, especially not in the middle of the agreement. And I'm talking around, I believe that was March-ish, I'm going to say, March of 2024. Another big thing that we were supposed to adhere to, that we need to be open from Monday to Friday to serve clients, because a lot of people might want to come on Friday, or a lot of people might want to come on a Monday. We can't lose a whole day of meetings with someone who needs assistance.
And that's one of the challenges that we hear as well. Like a lot of organizations within the sector are frontline providers and provide services throughout the week. So there is that emphasis on, being able to be open and serve their communities five days of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe New Dawn had a similar challenge as well. Yeah. So we started to think, okay, we need to be open Monday to Friday. What can we do? Maybe half of the people can be off on Monday, another half on Friday. However, we're going back to we need to work 37.5 hours. Nobody wants to work 12 hours a day. Yeah. Nobody wants to lose their wage. So, okay, what can we do? So we started thinking of not having a 4-day work week at the time, but making it a little more flexible and calling it a different thing, first of all, so there's no confusion. So we called the whole thing a modern work week. And we decided that a part of staff will have a Monday as their admin day, what we called it, and the other part, or the other half, will have a Friday as their admin day. And what that admin day means is basically a flexible day. So we noticed that, with chatting with management and everyone around that, some people work outside of their work hours. And then some people come in a little late. Some people have accommodations around the work. Some people like to, chat in the kitchen for some time and then do the rest of the work that they're required to do a little bit outside of working hours, specifically talking about the work from home day that we already had. So what would have been the difference between a work from home that we already had and the admin day? You're still supposed to work those hours, but with work from home day, you are still required to be online, available 8:30 to 4:30, which is our hours of operation. You should have meetings in that time frame if you have to. You should be responsive on Teams. You should answer your email. So all of those things you're still expected to do. If your manager calls you, please answer. However, the admin day that we were trying to implement will give you either Monday or Friday and will give you flexibility. So the expectations are something that we changed around that specific day. So you won't have to be online. You won't have to book any meetings. You can block off your calendar for the admin day specifically. You don't have to be in the office. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. And, you can run errands without feeling guilty that you're on a clock. You can do your laundry. You can, do whatever you want, as long as those 8 hours of that day are completed at some point, whether it's the weekend, whether it's in the evening. The idea of it is basically to give people autonomy around making sure they're still completing what they need to complete. All their tasks are still done. All their admin stuff is still done. It's still on point. They're meeting their numbers. But they can do it whenever they function best.
One of the first things you said was around, it wasn't perfect timing. And I'm like, when is it really? And so, let's talk about, this myth of, perfect timing. It needs to be the right time. Now isn't the right time. So it's is there a right time? And maybe, Alexandra, you can share a little bit about, Ion's story and timing and why sometimes, we just have to, go for it.
Yeah, that is the perfect timing is absolutely 1,000% a myth. I mean, perfection doesn't exist, but there's always going to be things that are happening, whether it's in a slower period of time or in like your busiest cycle of work. Anything can change at any point. So, I mean, with IONS, we started talking about it in, I think May was around the timing of the year that we started talking as a team around like, okay,
We're doing
are
it.
we going to do it? We're doing it. Okay. What are we afraid of? Like, how could this go poorly? How could it be amazing? What's it going to look like? We launched it in June, which is like when everybody's on vacation. All the vacations started. Everything's kind of slower anyway. So in that sense, it was easier for us to kind of like trial and error all of that. We didn't have as many really hard deadlines externally, at least. So there was a lot more spaciousness for us to figure out how it's working internally and how it's not working internally and stuff, and to kind of set ourselves up for the fall. The problem with that, though, was that we kind of got used to this like 4-day work week when it wasn't busy. So then in the fall, it was like, uh-oh, now we're busier. And we've taken a day away from what we need to do, but we didn't really scale back how much we do.
Is it still a good idea?
Exactly. Like we definitely, there were a few moments, at least for me, and I feel like Lydia and I met in the hallways a few times going, I don't know. Because it started to feel like, okay, we chose a reduced hour work week. So we chose not to do 40 hours a week in 4 days only. But we didn't change the amount of work that we have to do in those 4 days. So, like, did we just shoot ourselves in the foot? Like,
Most probably.
Probably, yeah. But I think, like, the benefit of trying to do it in a slower period, thinking we had it figured out when there were less pressures, and then being faced very quickly with the pressures and the reality of, like, this isn't how it's going to work all the time, really forced us to get clear on, like, what needs to change in order to make this work? Because by that point, we were already 3 months in, so we were invested. We wanted this to continue. We liked that Friday off, like, already. So it's like, what do we have to change to make this keep happening? Whereas I think if we had started it in September at the beginning, we might have been like, this is too hard. Tapping out. Let's do it later. I don't know if that's true. I think we still would have fought for it, but it was easier because there was enough buy-in. There was enough of a routine kind of built in. So we were able to kind of get clearer on like, okay, it's the meetings. Let's start there. How do we figure out how to not have as many meetings? How do we figure out how to have better meetings? How do we figure out a flow? How do we get better at like looking at the next season and not making it ridiculously busy so that we can actually navigate this? And how do we set expectations with our funders, with our partners, with the people that we're like offering programming to, so that they're not expecting us on Fridays and like they kind of get used to that idea. So you're right, there's no perfect timing. It's just a matter of really that buy-in and commitment to like, we want to make this work, so let's dig in and make it work, right?
Yeah. And IONS is definitely in a similar situation to Teamwork Cooperative, where it was like, yeah, people were feeling overworked, like overtasked, and it's like, is that the best time to like just cut out a whole day, right? Like, hard questions, but it's like when we think about like a people approach, and it's like, how are people going to like feel better in the workplace, and what can we do to support people's rest so that like we aren't burning out? We were in a very similar place where it was like, something needs to change. And it's ended up being super beneficial for our organization, which I'm sure you're seeing similar things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because we implemented it at the same time
In
that
June,
you folks
too.
did. It was June or July.
Nice.
So basically everyone's on vacation. Programming, different programs are coming to an end. And while we did realize that that's a challenge, that's a huge change, and it might be a challenge for the staff, it might be a challenge for the whole team, honestly, to get used to the new regime or new type of work and not feel guilty that, hey, I'm not working on Monday. I see the whole traffic behind my window and I'm not going to work. I kind of feel good about it, but also a little guilty. A lot of people felt that because we did some focus groups and people shared their feelings, and we had weekly surveys where people were sharing how they felt that week or how their week went, when did they work, what did they complete. So we were gathering some statistics. But we knew that it's going to be challenging, and the transition specifically to September, October, when there is a lot of people going back to school, so a lot of requirements for funding, different fundings that we usually submit to the government. A lot of layoffs since the season is over. So people are, all the service industry, the port is laying off all the people. So a lot of those people are coming back for the services. And we knew it's going to be like a dip in the numbers. Plus, we're down 4 people after last year's layoffs. And it would have been a challenge. So we tried to keep an open mind that if we're not meeting certain numbers, or if people are a little overworked in the beginning, it might not just be because of the modern work week. It might be because of that as well, because it's a change, but also a plethora of other reasons that come with it.
There's so many like external factors, and even like organizational dynamics, team culture, like so many things that play into this like evaluative piece around like whether it's working. And I think something that is really important that we stress is like there are growing pains, like you said, through this like transition, and that you kind of need to expect and like prepare for that, and that things like don't happen overnight. Like even though at IONS we like snipped out Friday overnight with that exact sound effect.
Too.
That's true. That there's still like a lot of things to like work through, and it's kind of like you gotta like stick through it sometimes, and like growing pains.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's hard to think about too, like, because you really don't think about something that's you're so excited about, like a 4-day work week or this modern work week, that you're like, oh my gosh, more flexibility. I get to have an extra day. This is so cool. How could there be any downside? How could it be bad? And then suddenly you're like, oh, this is really hard. Why is it hard? It's so good. So being confronted with that, like the challenges of that is really, it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
It was surprising, I think, for the IONS team in particular.
Any change is going to be difficult.
Absolutely. And with timing as well. As I said, it might have been not be a perfect timing because, again, as you mentioned, there is no perfection. It was right timing because we needed a change, but it was also a wrong timing because it would have been so hard to implement without everyone being on board, without everyone kind of realizing their role in it, and that if you just I'm not working Monday, see ya, and you're not accountable for your work, and it would have been much more challenging, but worked out.
How did you figure out who worked like Mondays and Fridays? So at IONS, we as a team decided that all of us have Fridays off, and we have a smaller team. We're not frontline service providers, so we're able to have like that one day where the office is closed. But your team setup is a little different, and so how did you navigate which days off?
Might have been a mistake, but we asked people what they want, whether they wanted Monday, Friday, or they didn't mind either. We also provided people to stay status quo, so not engage in modern work week at all. And we had, I believe, 3 people out of our 32 that stayed status quo.
Interesting.
Which still included their work from home day, which they could have chosen any day other than Monday or Friday to be their work from home day in a week. But yeah, we asked people, what do you want, Monday or Friday? And shocker, vast majority chose Friday. I personally chose Monday for various reasons. And people who said, I don't care, were shifted to Monday because we, for security purposes, we need a certain number of people in the office every day. And we noticed that on Fridays, we were very low with our numbers. And that including, somebody's on vacation, somebody's calling in sick, somebody's leaving early,
you need
whatnot.
That coverage. Yeah.
We need that coverage. We need the front end coverage all the time because the person who is at the reception, they need lunch break. So all those things needed to be accounted for. So we did face that challenge a little bit because we had a lot of people not in the office on Friday. And then we just asked people, please, can you switch? Well, we asked people. We asked, we did provide some personal reasons why we love Mondays as our admin day. I personally like watching people going to work and me being in bed. Also, I like not being stuck in traffic because there's never traffic on Fridays. I don't know what's happening in the city, but just people don't work Fridays. No. Including you folks, actually. So
correct.
That would be another thing. And also, we had 2 management staff in the office on Fridays, and they would always treat us with little things because we're Friday folks who are stuck in the office on Fridays. Yes. One of those, pizza days in the office, but still nice. You know, you can put your tunes up a little louder because vast majority of people are not in the office. Some of those things. And we actually had some people switch who thought that they actually don't care as much about their Friday. And that worked. So right now we're more stable and set.
Nice. You really kind of spearheaded this and were a part of like kind of the team to really make it happen. And you've talked a lot about like the challenges and how it was implemented and how the team was impacted. But for you, like what benefits have you personally seen of this admin day? Like how do you feel like it's really helped you out, or the things that you were maybe not expecting to benefit from with this change?
That flexibility in the day and that lack of stress that you have all the time that, I need to be on the clock, but you can just complete your tasks whenever you want. You're accountable for your own work, and you feel that you're treated as an adult that knows when to do things, that does things when they function best. And I think that's the best thing that not just me, but a lot of people felt after the modern work week was implemented.
And I think like an important part in like this conversation is often like people hear about the 4-day work week and how beneficial it could be, but there's often this like resistance. It's like, well, it wouldn't work for us. And I think there's just so many different ways that like you can work around it or provide like different kinds of like flexibility or like benefits to your staff that like increase their, quality of life and their balance with their work and their home life. That there's this myth of like it wouldn't work for us. So I was like, how do we get around that? Like
I think it's so cool that you at Teamwork really figured out a completely different model. Like an admin day, a modern work week isn't really a classic like 4-day work week. You didn't reduce the hours. You didn't kind of like compress them into 4 days, but you still found a way to gain that flexibility while still meeting the needs of your funders and everything. So like I think it's great that you like talked to Nudon as well as us, and that there's so many other examples of how this works to really highlight that it's a 4-day work week or a flexible work week or a modern work week is never one size fits all. And it's also never going to work if you don't figure out how to make it suit the needs of your team, like of the actual people that are there and everybody involved in your organization. So like the fact that you took into account, okay, what do the funders need from us? Like what are our barriers and what would it mean to challenge these? Who do we have to talk to? What do we need to be able to do to keep doing, to keep serving our community, to keep like kind of helping the people that we exist to help, right? It must have been really interesting to be in those conversations to really find out like what is the right fit for us. Like we know we need to change. How can we make it happen?
And we're always strive to become the employer of choice because we need good people to stay, and we know our limitations as a nonprofit. But an interesting thing that came out of some of the focus groups that we held to understand the modern work week and how it works was that we started talking about, okay, this is a pilot from July to December because we renew our agreement in December with the funders. And we're like, okay, should we start talking about 4-day work week? The classic model of, just having that Friday or that Monday off for those people who are engaging in admin day. And most people said no, because it's going to reduce the hours, it's going to increase the stress, it's going to create kind of an unfair lack of balance between people who can afford to work outside of their working hours that might not have, kids or family engagement or any other things they're supposed to be doing, and those who do have. So we wanted to avoid that, as well as management. They're always working outside of work hours either way, whether it's modern work week or not. And that admin day provides that flexibility that you don't tell people. Nobody sees you going in and out of the office. You can come in and out as you wish. You can stay at home. So nobody sees actually how much you work, and nobody feels that, they're working outside of work hours again. Like, am I not doing enough in my 40 hours a week and all of that? So vast majority of people said that it's going to be too much work to keep for to keep for the whole week.
And for our last thing to wrap this up, we'll address the myth of you need to be at the head of an organization. You need to be leading a team of people. So as a young person, not in like a formal management role, what advice would you have for somebody who hears a story, sees different practices that they would like their organizations to implement? What would your advice be for them?
The worst thing they can say is no. Do the research, first of all, so you have the answers to difficult questions, at least the vast majority of them. Talk to people who already did it. Look at their challenges, because people are going to come with negative comments right away. What if this? What if that? So be prepared for those conversations. But it still doesn't mean that it's going to happen, or it really depends on the management team. It still depends on how open they are to change, if they realize that they do need a change. And I feel I'm very, very privileged to work at the organization that is listening to the employees, and we have an open door policy, whatever that means, but I can knock at my ED's office anytime and ask a question. I don't need to, jump over heads and go to one manager than the other. So, but it's different in different organizations. And as a smaller team, not with 6 people or how many you folks have, but around 30 people, it's still good. It was a challenge to implement because we're all in different schedules, we're all in different roles. But, my approach was talking to different people who are not in management, but who had some influence talking to management. Because still, whether they're very open-minded, they're great, and it talks a lot about the culture of the organization as well. It still would have been much more challenging just for me to go straight to the ED. But again, the worst thing they can say is no. So try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that answer. The worst they can say is no. Always ask. I think that is an important lesson here if we want to continue building more flexible workplaces that help retain good people in the sector. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Nina, and for being in conversation with us as well, Alexandra. This is great.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Let's do it again.
Connect with us on Instagram at IONS Canada or on LinkedIn at Impact Organizations of Nova Scotia, and visit the IONS website at ions.ca.